I think we are. Okay. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. How to use the riding aids or not to use them. Today, I'm going to chat with you about some of the uncommon truths that we hear in the riding world as we go through our journey with our horse. We hear a lot of these uncommon truths. Some of them might be something like, use more leg, or you need more hand, stronger hand, or your horse is taking advantage of you. Your horse is not listening to you. Any of those things. Well, today I'm going to teach you why striving for the obedience of the aids is probably not your first move and what to do instead. So, hi, my name is Chris Adderson. I'm the founder of Harmony for the Horse. And if you're coming on live here, please put a note for me below. Let me know what your biggest struggle is with the aids that you're dealing with your horse. Or let me know what you want to do with your horse. Just put a note for me below. And if you're on the replay too, tell me that you're on the replay. I love to know who the replay people are. I always come in and check my messages, and I always respond, and I always chat with you, and I know your names. So let me be crystal clear to begin with what the aids are. Okay, so they are physical pressure that a rider uses basically to communicate with the horse. That's the basic definition that somebody might be familiar with, but we probably all think it is. And so when the horse responds correctly to the aid, then, or to the pressure, then the pressure's taken off. That's pretty familiar, isn't it? And the aids can come from the seat or the legs or the hands. And sometimes in this definition of the aids, there's the cues that are separate from that, right? Which may be a voice cue or a click or something like that. Deanna says, hi, great to see you, Deanna. Oh, by the way, if you are on and I don't say your name, it means that I'm using a third-party streaming device, and so you have to give them permission in order to be able to give your name and not just call you be a Facebook user. All right, okay. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is the obedience to the aids. Okay, so that means a horse not responding to your leg, for example, right? Then it would be said that the horse is not being obedient, or they're not responding fast enough to something that some pressure you're giving. So then your horse might be said to be obedient. Then you come up with questions like this. Why is my horse not going forward? Right? Why is my horse dead to the leg then? Why? Why should that be the case when horses can feel a fly? When horses are in nature, they need to be sensitive and aware of what's going on around them and what's touching them. Or why won't my horse slow down? The other end of it. Or why does my horse bolt? So these are the questions that we're going to help you with today. I'm going to share with you today how to have a horse who is actually settled, right? Who's settled, which means that they are willing to go forward. They are willing to slow down. They're not in their own world, either turned off or turned tremendously on. A horse that loves what they're doing, right? So the horse becomes interested in the work because the horse understands where it's going. And I'm going to share with you how I created that with my horses and how you can create that with your horse too. So in the past, instructors may say to you, and I have had this as well, let me know if this resonates with you, just up the phases, right? If you don't get a response at phase 1, up the phases as high as you need to get it until the horse moves away or yielding. Let me know if you are familiar with that. Or your horse has got your number. Your horse is taking advantage of you. Let me know if you have heard that before. I've had these experiences, and I've worked with a certain instructor that I can think of, and I liked her well enough, but we didn't see any major changes as I worked with her. And I was actually seeing my horses go backwards. And while I was really hopeful and I was trusting in the process, it didn't feel complete to me, right? There was something always missing. Because for me, and this may be the same for you too, when you love your horse and you want the very best for them as well as you too, you don't want them to become dull, right? You don't want them to be turned off. You don't want them to not go forward or to be reactive or to be stressed out just because of pressure. Let me know if that resonates for you. Put a note for me below. All right, so let's get into this. The first thing that we need to do is to get a clear idea of when to use the aids, when to expect obedience, and when to not. All right, it's not a blanket approach. And my answer to be that of when to use this obedience to the aids and expecting it is in an emergency. Okay, if your horse is going to give a major spook that's going to be unsittable, then you are going to want that horse to be obedient to certain aids that you give, aren't you? And in that emergency, your horse may be completely distracted, right? Your horse may see something totally off in the distance, far away, and is preparing to have that big time spook or to run away, right? But then, you know what? This actually comes under the realm of establishing boundaries and establishing your bond with your horse. Because if you're constantly nurturing your bond with your horse, then it's less likely that you will get into this situation that I'm describing. But horses are horses, things can always happen. So yes, you would want your horse to be obedient to certain aids in an extreme emergency. Do not use the idea of obedience to the aids when you're training with your horse. This is when not to use the obedience of the aids, okay? Horses are much more intelligent than that. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that we would expect them to be obedient to all of this pressure from all of these places at the right time and have it be all perfect and it all works out when we're training our horses, right? There are so many more things to consider other than that. Before we up the phases, if you're going to do that, which is obedience to the aids, by the way, there are so many more things we have to consider. So Facebook user says, recognizing my mare's threshold and being considerate of it is very important in our partnership. Yes, exactly. Whoever you are, thanks so much for your comment. That is exactly true. Recognizing your mare's threshold is critical. And that's part of nurturing your bond and your relationship and your partnership, isn't it? That is not obedience to the aids. So you're right. This is what I'm talking about. This is true training. So there's so much more depth to it, right? Like one of those points is recognizing your horse's threshold, and actually seeing your horse, actually hearing what your horse is saying, and giving your horse a voice, giving them a choice in the conversation, a choice to say no. And then digging deep and finding out why they are saying no. And you may get lots of no's, and it may be disconcerting, but you will come out on the other side. You will no longer be in blissful ignorance. How long are you going to be in blissful ignorance, following the obedience to the aids and not giving our horses the benefit that they deserve and the respect that they deserve? So when you get a chance to work with us, as one of our students, Deb, I'm going to give you an example of Deb in our program. We will take you through a process of gaining a new awareness along these lines. So you will really get to see and know and understand your horse specifically. And it, of course, starts with understanding yourself. And then your horse will show interest in your training. Okay? And the riding, and they will choose to be with you and choose to want to ride, not because there's a consequence to not being obedient, or not because they're going to be reprimanded for not being obedient. They will choose to do that. So Deb was constantly struggling with her horse, and when she would come on calls with us at the beginning here, she would always mention how her horse didn't want to be caught, how her horse would run away, and things also like her horse, that's my dog barking at my horses outside, and how her horse, it's okay, handsome, yeah, how her horse would either leap into the air on the lunge, or when she was in hand or riding, there'd be this constant anxious chewing on the bit, which really drove her crazy. It really irritated her. So this nervousness was always coming up in her horse. And on our calls, she would comment on this frequently. So I knew that it was really upsetting for her. So when we worked with her in our program, we gave her tools to use. And then soon she was coming on her calls and she would say things like, I can feel another epiphany bubbling up. And we would laugh and we would say, okay, what's that? And she would explain it. Yesterday, she sent me a message and she said, my horse has become willing. The floodgate has opened. What joy. Thank you. So this is what I'm talking about. When we have this outlook upon our horses, when we can see them as not just being obedient and serving us, but rather sentient beings who we need to see, to understand, to know, to feel, to read, to be with, that's when we'll get the epiphanies happening. So let me know if you are having epiphanies right now. Let me know if you are experiencing or having some kind of aha. Put it as a note for me below. So the next thing we want to talk about is, how do you perceive your work with your horse? Let me know. If you were to answer that question, how do you perceive your work with your horse? Is it a tactic or is it a strategy? A tactic is something small, right? It's something that you can do, you can change from day to day. It doesn't have to be a thread. Whereas a strategy is an overarching logic and how everything plays together. So to relate back to Deb in our program, we have a strategy that we worked with her. We worked with her through her stuckness with her horse and what she was experiencing, so that she could use the tools that we were giving her and she could come out on the other side. So part of that strategy that we did with Deb was teach her how to hold space for her horse. Okay, so what I mean by that is to listen and to see the trajectory. So the trajectory is from confusion to clarity to willingness. All right, and in her message yesterday, she said, my horse has become willing. So we teach you how to pay attention to those internal shifts that allow your horse to make the leap to the next level. So we slow things down at the beginning. We slow things down enough that your horse becomes more aware of what they're doing, right? So then they can do it in a more repeatable manner. and then they can duplicate it, and they can duplicate it by themselves. When your horse starts duplicating these desirable movements and efforts that we're looking for, that's when it's amazing, and that's when it becomes a real partnership. So when your horse is able to understand exactly what is shifting within themselves because you're slowing them down enough and you are being very specific on the things that need to be repeated, rather than just being, well, oh, I was lucky that time, or that was a fluke, what happened there, or happenstance, right? We want it to be identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. And that's what we have in our system. So your job as a guide for your horse, training your horse, is to articulate for your horse the specific steps that are required along this journey, right, to the final outcome that you're looking for with your horse and you. And this is what we do in our program. We help you to determine this. We help you to get clarity. We help you to get specific enough, like we did with Deb. And we provide everything in context, right? So that it's not just out of the blue, here's something to do. I don't know if it relates to your horse or you at all, but just do it. That's a waste of time. The strategy is what's going to help you get there. So it's like looking through a window, right? It's like looking through a window, and you can see the specifics through that window of the different shifts that you're going to look for and have happen. So that then your horse says, oh, I feel differently now. I understand where we're going. This is what you want your horse to say. And then the horse will start, like I said, to duplicate that for you, to give that to you without being asked. So the horse is enjoying the process and involved with the learning with you. So if you'd like support with that, if you'd like to support with finding out what that is for you and your horse, then you can click on the link somewhere around this video and we can find out how we can help you and your horse. So let me know if that resonates with you. Let me know if there's any times that you've actually felt that a magical moment when your horse starts to participate with you, and what that was. And I'll just check my messages. And okay, I think I've got messages. Thanks for hopping on with me. I see lots of people on here with me. And I will see you next time. Next Friday at this time, every Friday, I always do a live training for you. So be sure to comment and put notes for me so I can help you out. Okay, bye for now. I'll see you next time.